Thank you so much for staying with us for this giving edition of the Means Report. I am learning so much about nonprofits that sure we've heard about, but do you really know the good work that they do behind the scenes? And we're going to continue that right now with the Tuttle-Newton Home. Cameron Nixon is a longtime advocate of the Tuttle-Newton Home, used to chair the board. He's on the board of directors. Cameron, thanks for the work you do and for being here today.
Thank you, Brad.
So when I think of Tuttle-Newton Home, I think of a place that used to be an orphanage in that big fancy building, and now y'all are a place that, as you've always done, helps children stay on the right track through their lives. Is that pretty accurate?
That's very accurate. The orphanage closed in 1946, and so the funds and the efforts that were used to guide children through their lives in the orphanage structure itself are now just handled out in a different manner. So we still track children through their school years with all kind of different support and resources in a similar manner.
How young do y'all get them? Could it be a kindergarten age?
It could be a kindergartner.
And then how do the children come to you? Who brings them to Tuttle-Newton for y'all's care and help?
So parents will find us and ask for our help when resources are not available to them and we can help. We get a lot of referrals from the school systems where guidance counselors and the teacher support staff recognize a child could use some help, or DFACS also contacts us.
Is there a typical child who comes to you, or does it just vary? And if you can, and we could easily spend this whole segment talking about this, but what kind of issues or concerns might a child have when they're introduced to Tuttle-Newton?
So there could be a number of issues, as you know, our community. There could be behavioral issues, there could be financial issues, and these would be children that for whatever reason, some things out of their control, need just a little extra resource. And so we can provide funds for academic placement, additional academic placement, therapeutic placement, residential placement, that allows the children and the family to continue with their education, with their life, and to get the child to a point where they will be self-supporting adults.
Well, I was going to ask you about that, and maybe you just answered it by saying that it sounds like you're with them for the whole ride until they are ready to launch themselves into adulthood. But is there an average time that somebody would need Tuttle-Newton's services? Maybe dip in, get right, and then return to their former lives? Does that happen?
It depends on the situation.
Yeah.
Sometimes we are as young as we said to help kindergartners with maybe learning differences and reading challenges. It could also be someone in their late high school years that may have a unfortunate incident that popped up, and either financial or academic support can be added to help them finish their teen years.
Has it ever been something so simple as, okay, the reason that your son or daughter is not doing well in school is because they cannot see the chalkboard, they need glasses? Is it ever a quick fix?
It can be,
yeah.
Certainly. So we actually have two prongs. We have the long-term commitments that we talked about a second ago, but on a limited basis, we can offer emergency support for families. And that can be rent, that can be utility bills, that can be things as simple as eyeglasses or clothes. People find themselves in different straits, and we have the ability and the mission to help folks in different ways.
What's your relationship like with the schools in our area? And is it all schools, public, private, you name it, where they can work with you, where they can set up the accommodations that you referenced? Is that pretty easy?
It is, and I would say the relationship with the schools is outstanding. Obviously, teachers in the schools are interested in and invested in child success, and there's a piece of the puzzle that's missing. They like to be able to come to us as a resource to help the families succeed.
Where do y'all get y'all's money? And does insurance ever kick in and help y'all? How does that whole thing work?
So the seed money for the organization came from when the orphanage was sold. That facility was sold back in the 40s. And so the funds have been invested since then. We get a return off of those funds, off our endowment. But as you know, the need always outstrips the resources available.
Yeah.
So grants, public support, not public support, support from the public, like what you're promoting here, help us do our job.
Yeah, and I know people are listening, and I know that this is touching hearts because we all care about our children. We love them and want them to do well. Any resources available for the parents to help them? Because I know that y'all can't do all the heavy lifting. Moms and dads and caregivers need to help these youngsters at home. Can y'all kind of give us the skill set we need?
I think you're looking for children that may not exhibit overt symptoms of issues, but just a little piece of either behavioral maturity or their academic success is missing. We can help with filling that gap.
Is that something that's usually pretty easy to spot? Because sometimes we may just brush it off and say, oh, they're just being a typical child, or this is just a bad report card. I don't need outside help. Or is it kind of more glaring where you say, okay, that's a red flag?
I think it's all that.
Yeah.
We have our executive director is a trained child psychiatrist and psychologist with those kind of skills. And so her interaction with the parents and the children direct us to our support for that particular situation.
Are y'all there? I know that you kind of hold their hand through the school part of their lives. Does Tuttle-Newton play any role after that when they kind of are spreading their wings and starting to go off into the real world, or is y'all's role finished at that point?
Once they're part of our family, they really are part of the family. And it's wonderful to go back in the archives and find success stories of folks that had been orphans or supported by us over the years, to see their successes and how they stay in touch with our organization.
I know we kind of touched on shelter at the top of the interview, but y'all don't house kids anymore, do you? Nobody lives at the Tuttle-Newton home, is that right?
That is correct.
Yeah, and so when you talk about assistance with shelter, what's that look like? We're going to pay your rent for a few months, or we're going to place you in a hotel? What's that look like behind the scenes?
It could be any of that.
Yeah.
And ideally, it is a situation where it may be a temporary situation where we know what the end's going to look like, but you might need a little help to get from point A to point B, where the family life and the family situation can be more settled.
Probably my last question, how long does it typically take before you can see the light bulb come on, where you can see Tuttle-Newton's efforts paying off and the child improving?
That's hard to say. It varies, but when the light bulb goes off, it goes off, and it is what drives us every day to do our job.
Wow.
Someone begins to learn how to read, someone gets the math concept, someone is more comfortable in a social setting that they can then become the person, the child that they want to be.
There's no greater gift you can give a young person than that foundation. Cameron Nixon, thanks to you, thanks to the team at Tuttle-Newton. We appreciate what you do.
Thank you, Brad, for doing this.
Absolutely. Yeah, Tuttle-Newton Home, please remember them. And remember to stay in touch with us here at The Means Report. It is easy to do so. You can find us on social media, Facebook, X as it's called now, Instagram. The address is one word, The Means Report. You can also check previous episodes of this broadcast on our main website, WJBF.com. Just search for The Means Report. I wish you the happiest of Thanksgivings, and I'm thankful to you for joining us and for considering these agencies we profiled today. For Jarrett Ledger, always Marlena, and the entire Means Report family, take care.